Welcome to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, a bi-weekly look at all things related to the growing elite clubs nationally, the ECNL. For more information on the ECNL, visit us at www.theecnl.com. Now, here's your host for Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, former U.S. Soccer press officer and longtime soccer broadcaster, Dean Linke.
Kenneth Medina is the Executive Director of Soccer for Sting Soccer Organization and has coached youth soccer for 30 plus years, and he's been a member of the ECNL Board of Directors for 12 years. Kenneth Medina sits down with Christian Lavers, the ECNL President and CEO, after this message from the ECNL.
As the game continues to evolve in the United States, the ECNL remains the standard of excellence in youth soccer. The Elite Clubs National League has grown to include over 200 clubs and nearly 50,000 players across the country, with a robust competition platform for teams, educational resources for coaches and clubs, and unparalleled identification and development opportunities for players. Alongside its member clubs, collaborating to create a better future, the ECNL continues to raise the game every day. The ECNL is more than a league. Welcome back to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast. Once again, here's Dean.
I am Dean Linke, and this is Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, where today ECNL President and CEO Christian Lavers will drive the discussion with Kenneth Medina. Before I turn it over to Christian, let me tell you a little bit more about Mr. Medina. Kenneth Medina is the Executive Director of Soccer for Sting Soccer Organization and has coached youth soccer for 30 plus years. He's enjoyed one of the most successful coaching careers of anyone in the country over that time, having won an overall club ECNL National Championship, 2 ECNL National Championships, 3 USYS National Championships, and numerous state and regional titles. In his role as Executive Director for Sting, Medina currently oversees more than 240 teams across 7 markets in North Texas, Austin, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Louisiana, Nebraska, and Pennsylvania. In addition to his pivotal role in propelling the Sting Soccer organization forward, he has also worked tirelessly to develop and advance opportunities for young females in the game regionally and nationally, having been instrumental in the operations of the ECNL over time as an ECNL board member of the Texas Conference since its inception. Kenneth believes that the game is an incredible teacher and looks forward to continuing to impact young lives on and off the soccer field for many years to come. With that introduction, I welcome Mr. Medina to today's Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast.
Thank you.
And I now turn it over to Christian Lavers, the ECNL President and CEO, to drive the discussion.
Thanks, Dean. And Kenny, I'm really excited and appreciative of you being on here, not only because of what you've done as a coach and director over the course of a very long career, but for what you've done as a member of the ECNL Board of Directors since the very beginning, and then for your friendship. You're an interesting guy with a lot of good perspective, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us.
Of course.
Maybe we should start, Kenny, with, and I know you're not very good at self-promotion, but get yourself geared up for that, and maybe give us a little bit of the Kenny Medina story, at least from a high level, from touching on some of the playing background maybe, and then into your coaching career from where it started to the Texans and now to Sting, so that people can get a little bit of a sense of what you've done and who you are.
I wasn't a soccer player in the beginning. I played baseball. My dad was very good at baseball, and the neighborhood kids were playing soccer one day, and I just picked it up and loved it. And at that point, fast forward, played club ball in the local area. We're just getting beaten up by the Dallas clubs. And I told my parents, I said, that's where I want to go. I want to go to Dallas. My dad would get up early in the morning, drive to his work, and then drive back to the house, pick me up, and get me back to Dallas to train with, at that time was the Comets. That's what just launched my career as far as playing goes. I went to college in South Carolina at Spartanburg, but I left after about a couple of weeks because I got homesick. So I'm a mama's boy. Nice. I came home, got a call from Randy Waldrum, which is now at Pittsburgh. Everybody knows Randy. And so The phone rang, answered the phone, and he said, Kenny, it's true. You came home. And I said, yes, I did. He goes, I've got a scholarship here for you if you want to play here for me, which was a small school, which is perfect for me. There was a neighborhood team, and then my neighbor asked me, would you coach my boys team? And I said, sure. And then from that point, my coaching career launched off. I loved it. I loved coaching the game. I loved the tactics, the individual part of it. And so at that point, I got going, got a local club going here in Arlington. And then at that point, thought there was more for me to learn. I met Hassan, which Hassan was a fantastic mentor to me. I mean, I feel like I owe him a lot as far as where I am right now. And then at that point, I spent, I think, 14 or 15 years with the Texans, and we won a lot. It was great. He treated me well. And then at that point, I just said, I've got to lead more than just parents and players. I need to lead, men and women into the club soccer platform. And that's where Sting came along. And that's where Brent Corrali hired me. And I went there with Brent because at the end of the day, when this is all over, this is all done, I knew that he would take very, very good care of me. So I'm very appreciative of Brent. But that's where I am right now. I think I'm probably 14 or 15 years into Sting right now. So that's kind of where my career's been.
Well, to say you won a lot at Texans and at Sting is a bit of an understatement. You won probably as much or more than anybody in the country at both. I mean, Sting's been an ECNL overall club champion in the last 10 years or so. And so you've done it well. You've done it the right way. Maybe give a little bit of a perspective on Sting, because I think Sting is run like a business in a way that many clubs are not. And I don't say that with any negativity towards anything. I say it with a lot of respect for the way that you guys have set Sting up from an organizational structure. Can you talk a little bit about what's unique about Sting and the way the club is set up and operates?
It's one central hub, and it's run by myself and just a few others. And everything comes into, what we consider, the Dallas division. But I mean, we're in Nebraska now, and we're in a lot of areas in the state of Texas, Pennsylvania. But everything runs into us as far as the overall operations of it. And honestly, to give my wife a lot of credit, she runs a lot of the operations of it as well. So, if we put our brand on it, we want to make sure that we're overseeing it and organizing it and making sure that it runs efficiently through our main hub. So it's just not us putting our name somewhere and them just doing whatever they want to do. We have a lot of say in what is happening in all the other division. So that's what I think makes us unique.
Well, and I know within that structure, you guys, it's one thing to have people, on paper report in to a division, but you guys take sort of club identity. You did a big thing where you brought all your staff into the United Soccer Coaches Convention a few years ago, not just to see sessions there, but to do your own formal training. You got Stuart Hilton, who's doing coaching education and mentoring around the country. I saw on social media just the other day, you guys were doing something with all your staff, getting to know each other and embed some values. So can you talk about some of the stuff you guys do from an education and values perspective?
Well, I mean, and again, from that point, Stuart is, one of the guys that goes to the other regions and the divisions and, gives them what we feel like it's important to them to continue to keep growing and, get better. And again, it's all coaching education. And it's just understanding the division because, all areas are going to be different. I mean, what happens in Dallas is not going to happen in Nebraska or Corpus Christi or Austin. So Stuart is really the guy that understands that. And so is my wife. I mean, she understands it as well. But the coaching education we did the other night was, I think we had 60 coaches at the hotel. And we just did some bonding and some coaching education, but I thought it was really, really, really positive. And, honestly, I don't participate in some of that stuff, but I did this time and it was tremendous. So, I mean, we had a topic where, why you coach, who you are, why you coach, and what's your favorite movie. And at that point, we got done with that and we had to reenact our favorite movie. And it was just, people seeing me doing that, going, Kenny Medina's here doing that. Are you kidding me? Tattoo was fantastic. So, I mean, it was a really, really good opportunity for all of us to get to know each other.
That's awesome. You've mentioned her a couple times already. I think you and I, and I'll throw Dean in this too, is like we've all married up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But, your wife, I know, is a big piece of the success of the club and a big supporter of you. You want to give everybody a sense of who she is?
Oh, wow. Erin is the heart and soul of our family, number one. I couldn't do this without her. She's from Canada. She's from Calgary. She played on the Canadian national team, played at SMU. Her parents weren't wealthy, and she had it hard. But she made it through SMU through 4 years. I think graduated in marketing, went to the Richards Group, which is a big marketing company here in Dallas, and left probably a really good job to go coach at SMU as an assistant. And then we met, and I talked her into coming to work for Sting. And from that point, it's been really, really good. So yeah, she runs the operations every day along with our 4 kids. So she is, that's about all I can say, because I'll start tearing up.
Well, that's one of the things I think that makes you a great role model. And I think we'll get into it more here in another segment. Can you talk real briefly, maybe before we do that, on sort of your perspective of family versus the job, and the job that can be nights and weekends? And you and I have talked a lot about some of the challenges in the coaching profession and some of the challenges for family in that, and you've got a wonderful perspective on it. Can you give us some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I've got a 22-year-old daughter from a previous marriage, but it took a toll on all of us as far as that goes. And I didn't spend enough time at home with my oldest daughter. And so now where I am with my health and, just what I'm doing overall, I've got a better perspective of just making sure my family I'm there for my family. Because if I'm healthy, they're going to be healthy. And at some point or another, I had to take a gut check and said, what more can I do? To your point, Christian, I've had a lot of championships, but I've had a lot of great players, and I could not have accomplished what I've done without some really, really good players. This was not all on me, but my family means the most to me at this point in my life. It's a matter of just making sure you're checking the boxes. And I would say to anybody on this call or this podcast, is if you're a coach, I had a pretty significant health scare. At that point, I said to myself, I got to take care of myself so I can take care of my family, because it's really, really gratifying to me to be at a field on the weekend to see my kids play or to see my boys run around with the other kids on the team. But, at some point or another, there's got to be a balance, and the balance when you're younger, I understand it. But as you get older, it's you got to figure out what's important to you. So that'd be my perspective.
We're here with Kenny Medina, a special guest on this week's Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast. He's talking with Christian Lavers, the president and CEO of the ECNL. We're going to step aside and be back with more.
From athletes just starting to turn heads to some of the best athletes to ever play their games, Gatorade shows that they are the proven fuel of the best. For the athletes who give everything, nothing beats Gatorade, the studied, tested, and proven fuel of the ECNL. Nike is a proud sponsor of ECNL Girls. Nothing can stop what we can do together to bring positive change to our communities. You can't stop sport, because #you can't stop our voices. Follow Nike on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Welcome back to Breaking the Line, where Christian Lavers, the ECNL president and CEO, is breaking down all things soccer and as well as family, which I really appreciate, with Kenny Medina. Back to you, Christian.
Thanks, Dean. Kenny, and I appreciate your transparency and openness in this. And I go back, you and I have had a lot of conversations about how we've changed as coaches over time. I don't know if you remember this. I think the first time I met you was probably sometime around 2004 or 2005, down in Eclipse. And I remember one of the comments, you're telling a story where you said to the players on the team, hey, you're all at the same training sessions when talking about, one player who's performing better than another. That quote, I've stolen that. I probably need to give you more credit for it. But, I know you look back at yourself and see a lot of change and growth and evolution as a coach. You want to talk about maybe a little bit of how your perspective has changed over the last almost 2 decades, or in other ways that you've changed as a coach?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think just as a coach, I feel like I'm coaching more. And, in the past, I felt like I was always calling out kids and players instead of coaching them through it. And I remember an incident. We were actually in Florida, and we're at halftime. We're up 2-0. And I said to our defenders, don't do this. And one of the kids did it. So I went to the sideline and was just going to call her out in front of everybody. And I said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I went to the back of the tent. I couldn't contain myself, Christian. So I came back to the sideline and I said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I went back in the back of the tent again. I came out to the sideline again and I encouraged her. And I said, we need you. We can't win this game without you. You got to get it together. And we ended up winning 4-0. So, that to me was like a defining moment for me to say, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, but, how can I get my players through it? And that's where I've evolved, because before I was pretty, well, as you know, I was pretty relentless on my kids. But that was I still remember that like it was yesterday. But yeah, that's kind of where I've evolved as a coach, is just coaching them through it and, being hard, but also encouraging them through the process, because they're going to make mistakes. So that's kind of where I feel like I've evolved.
I know that story is sort of one of those moments that stuck with you. Do you have any other thoughts as to how or why you kind of came to that realization, or what pushed you in that direction?
Honestly, Christian, I just think it's just the moment. As we all grow up and we get older, and maybe it's my own kids, that I look at them and say, that's not working. And not that's happened to my kids at all, but I just think it was the moment, Christian. It just clicked with me internally, to be honest with you. So I don't think it was a significant moment as far as my coaching goes. I just said, I'm just not going to do it anymore, because I've done it for so long the way that I used to do it.
As you've changed then as a coach, and obviously your role has become more and more as a director now, and you're in one heck of a marketplace when it comes to cutthroat competition. How do you look at your role as a director and supporting and educating coaches underneath you, or maybe mentoring them so that they become, I think ideally you'd like to say they become even better coaches than we do, right? But how do you look at your role as a director and supporting coaches?
Well, I think the coaches that we have now are top notch, and we've got all the same access to the information. It's just a matter of how you interpret it and how you get it to your players. And I feel like our coaches now can get the information and get it to the players. Honestly, Christian, I don't worry as much as I used to. I've got a very, very good staff of people, around me, and again, I start at the top of what we do administratively, from the owner to the operating officer, which is my wife, and to all the directors. They basically said to me, don't call us, we'll report to you and we'll let you know what we're doing. And everything they've done at this point has been spot on. So I'm lucky at that point, and I'm very fortunate, because the people that I have around me are very, very, very good people, and very competent at their jobs. Very, very good. So again, my thought was give them the rope and let them see what they do with it. And they've done a great job.
So that speaks, I think, to the importance of getting the right people in the beginning. And I know in Dallas as well, it's not uncommon for coaches to shop not just themselves, but shop their teams around and just pick up a new jersey and go somewhere else with a group. And I don't know if I could function in that environment. It's a challenging one for sure. But I know, in that spot, you're very particular about who you bring in as a coach. So can you talk about kind of what your most important things are, or what your red flags are when you're looking at potential coaches coming in to join Sting?
It's all about the credibility. And I've met with coaches that wanted to come over, and I've walked out of meetings going, boy, we could make a big grab there and be really good right away. And I just said, no, it's not something I want to deal with every, week, month, year, to see if we can try to keep them here or whatever it may be. And we've definitely gone through our slate of coaches for sure. But a lot of it just has to do with character and the consistency of, you see, if they're here in Dallas, you see what they do day in and day out, and you know what they're all about. There's no secrets. And at that particular point, you have to make a decision in my role to say, this is probably not a person that we need to go after, or a group of people we need to go after. And I think, the staff that I have with me right now have done a very good job of vetting that out. It's and getting the right people into the club. They may not be the name that everybody hears about, but they're very, very good people. And we've got people in positions right now that probably nobody heard about, but they're doing a great job, a really, really good job. So to me, it's really all about a character, Christian, is, what they bring to the table and their consistency.
So you're talking about that balance between, short-term immediate success, almost kind of mercenary style, versus long-term identity and long-term success. And I know that, it's, as you do it, it probably becomes easier, but there's got to be a big temptation to say, if we just did this now and maybe bring on somebody or bring on a group that we may not have much control over, we may not have a values alignment with, but we're going to be winning. I know that can be hard to say no to, even when you're doing it for all the right reasons. How do you do that? I mean, and I'm sure there's people that may pressure you sometimes to say, come on, this would help a lot. How do you stand firm in that position?
Well, I guess just being where I am right now. It's again, I'm not doing this for the next 2 years. I'm doing this for the next 10 to 20 years. And so at that point, you can do a grab, but you're not ever sleeping. And to me, it's just, that's where I am in my soccer process is, I want to sleep, I want to put my kids to sleep and want to feel good about it. But, doing that particular process is, yeah, you're right, Christian, is that there's opportunity there for us to be able to do something like that. But at the end of the day, I'm always having to look over my shoulder, and I'm just not willing to do that anymore.
Well, I tell you, probably one decision where your values, your vision, your character probably was most clear and most tested as well was in the discussion when the Girls Development Academy was created. Because I know you went back and forth on that, but ultimately Sting decided not to participate in that. Can you tell me what drove those decisions?
Well, honestly, I think it was you, Christian. I mean, and again, not to get off on something with you or off track, but I think your decision on what you did with the board and, how clubs are going to, stay in the league. When I knew that, I said to myself, we're not going to do the developmental academy. But I also knew with the developmental academy is that it wasn't a matter of the kids not playing high school, but we're clubs and people pay dues into the clubs. And, when you're traveling all over the country to play games and, you're not going to play but 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, your top 11 or 12 are going to get minutes, but everything other than that, it's collateral. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And then on top of that, no high school. But again, there were kids that were here in Dallas, I think, that were still playing high school. But that was I don't feel like it was a tough decision for me. I think it was a tough decision for people that were around me, that were thinking, what was I doing in regards to not going into the academy? And I remember this, Christian, and I don't think I've ever told you this, but there was rumors about the developmental academy it was not going to exist anymore, and kept hearing the rumors. I finally got the I guess the press line through a text message or the announcement that that it was not going to exist anymore. And I was getting pizza for my kids. I pulled over into a park and I started to cry because I didn't know how much it had taken out of me as far as just trying to, figure this thing out of what we were doing, because I believe so much in the ECNL and what we were doing as a board, as a league, and what you've done. So I never had any doubts as far as what we were going to do as an organization. But, being in Dallas, there were certain things I had to do to, get us through the forest as far as I'm concerned. So, but no, it was never a hard decision for me to stay in the league versus the DA.
That decision, and I know we've talked about, the challenges that we all faced, and you particularly in the last couple of years, and are exceptionally proud of how we've come through it. And that maybe transitions to the next topic, which you were one of the original board members in the ECNL when we started back in 2009. And so you've seen over the last, it's 12 years now, so much change in the league. And I think back to the discussions and where we were in 2009. Can you talk about a little bit of the change that you've seen, in the league? And I'm not talking about just from a programming and an external point, but you've been in the rooms where all the decisions have made. You've been one of the strongest leaders of the organization. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like and what it is like now from maybe an insider's view?
Well, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is in the beginning, there were many people that said, club directors can't, they won't be able to run a league. And what I see right now is we have the best league in the country. And I know that because of, another league coming in and people wanting to leave the league to come back to the ECNL. So I think it had to do a lot of the decisions that we made as an organization. But to start off on where we started and people saying we couldn't do it, and to where we are right now, we are by far the best league in the country. It's not even close. But I think it's just all been with people like yourself, Doug, Jay, people on the board. I want to give a shout out to even like a Sarah Kate, who started in the beginning as a commissioner, and to Jen and what she's done, Marissa. There's just a lot of people, Kristen Bruner, a lot of people that have really shaped this thing, through the course of the year. But just everything that I think we've done. And again, to your point, it's club run. If the clubs feel like they want something, they have votes. They've got the conferences. I just feel like it's, the way that it's evolved and the way it's grown. I feel like there's a lot of oversight on that and a lot of thought through that. It's just not an afterthought. So that's what I feel.
Kenny Medina joining Christian Lavers on Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast. We're back with more Kenny Medina after this.
Soccer.com is proud to partner with the ECNL to support the continued development of soccer in the U.S. at the highest levels. We've been delivering quality soccer equipment and apparel to players, fans, and coaches since 1984. Living and breathing the beautiful game ourselves, our goal at Soccer.com is to inspire you to play better, cheer louder, and have more fun. Visit Soccer.com today to check out our unmatched selection of gear, expert advice, and stories of greatness at every level of the game. ECNL Boys is partnering with Puma for the second year, driving sport forward with the leading products and the next generation of pros who wear them. Puma has proven themselves as the fastest sports brand in the world, the fastest innovation, the fastest players, and the fastest products in the game. They're the perfect partner to complement the speed and talent of our teams. In keeping with their mantra of forever faster, Puma introduces the world's fastest boot, the Ultra. The only boot engineered for speed, the Ultra combines a woven upper with a lightweight outsole for direct forward motion, speed, and acceleration. It's the best in the game, designed for the best players in the game.
Welcome back to Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast, where our CEO and President Christian Lavers is spending time with Kenny Medina.
So I'm going to keep going, Kenny, on some of the ECNL topic, because when I look at our organization from 2009 to now, one of the things that I think is so much better and has reflected so much maturation and growth is the board and understanding how to put on the league hat and to take off the club hat, or to put on the conference hat and take off the club hat and make decisions for the collective good of the league and all the clubs versus what may be helpful for your individual club. And that certainly was a challenge early on as people sort of struggled with this concept of a board of a league. But you've been exceptional at that. And again, in a really competitive conference, you've constantly put the league hat on and made decisions with that. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how you do that and why you do that?
for my sake, I made the credit to my parents because, they always said do the right thing. And, when I came a part of being the board, yes, you're right. It's difficult because there's decisions that were made and I had to take my club hat off and because I was on a board call, I wasn't with Sting, I was with the board. And I had to figure out what was going to be the best for the league and not always what's best for Sting. Again, I just think it has to do with character. And I appreciate you saying that because, again, being on the board for 10 years, I think people get the, perception that I've got some kind of power. And this as well as I do. There's a lot of people on the board and, I'm one vote. And at that point, we have to figure ourselves out and do what's best for the league. Again, I just think a lot has to do with just character and what's going on with the board and what's best for the league. And we had to make some tough decisions, for some clubs that, left the league and wanted to come back in. But I felt like at different times it was the right thing for the league because there were good clubs that needed to come back into the league. I think a lot has to do with just character.
This isn't public yet, so this will be, sort of the official public statement is that you are, after 12 years, Kenny, don't cut off those last two, man. After 12 years on the board, you made the decision to step down, and Pat O'Toole was just the other day officially announced or elected as the next representative for the Texas Conference. So can you talk a little bit about that decision to step down? When you look back at all of your time on the board in the last 12 years, what sticks out to you?
Oh, gosh, Christian. I think about the calls that we'd have in the beginning, through the middle, through the end, and having those tough decisions on how to shape the league. And I'm going to miss that a lot as far as the shaping of the league and going through that. I'm going to miss us getting together at the AGM, for our annual dinner to go over the league and being a part of that. Our national event that we have in Portland, being a part of that, which I hopefully I can still be a part of that.
We'll bring you in on that, Kenny. No worries. That's talk about the national training camp, and
yes,
that would not be the national training camp if we didn't have Mr. Medina on the sidelines.
Well, I appreciate that. But just seeing the evolution of the board and the good times we went through, and we went through some hard times because we had some guys that were on both ends of it, and but we got through it. And at that point, that's why I just have so much respect for everybody that's on the board and what they do. And I just don't feel like people know exactly what it is. They just can perceive or hear certain things. But my reason for stepping down is, to your point, it's 12 years, and I even look at, the club, with Sting, I'm giving opportunities for others to go into leadership roles because it's just time. And I just felt like it was time for me to say, okay, the board seat's up and, it can go with different leadership. I don't feel for 1 second that I'm going to be left out of anything because I have everybody's number that I can call that I need to. So I just felt like it was time. It was a good opportunity for somebody to step in after 12 years because that's just a long time. And then of course, going through my situation with my health, and I would tell everybody on this podcast, go see your doctor and stick to the regimen because we got a stressful job here, but at the end of the day, your family needs you and other people need you as well. But those are my reasons for having to step down. And my experience on the board was fantastic. I will miss it.
If we look now, and this league certainly wouldn't be where it is without the immense contributions that you've made. But when we look at the next chapter, so you mentioned early 10, 20 more years, what is the next chapter for Kenny? And you're right. We're not going to let you walk into the sunset, man. This is not a moment where Kenny gets away from weighing in on decisions because you're always going to be on speed dial here. But what is the next chapter for you when you look at Sting? Where do you hope the league goes over the next period of time? And what do you want to accomplish in the next chapter?
Well, my next chapter for me is to see other people win, is to see my staff that we've assembled and to give them my wisdom. They've got the knowledge and they're smart people. I've got the wisdom as far as, how to, do things through my age, but I want to see them win. I want to see them win. I want to see Sting win, but I want to see him do it right. in the right way and not in the wrong way. I don't want to grab. I want to be able to develop kids through our staff. Within the league, I, again, feel like it's the best league in the country. And that's why I felt I could leave. If I felt like this was going in the way that the DA was going and coming in, and we were struggling, I would have never left the board ever. But I think the league is in such a good state right now that it was time for me to be able to get out while we were winning. I want to make sure that as a league we can service the members and do it the right way. And I feel confident in that because I know how you feel. I know how the league feels, our commissioner feels, and Jen and everybody else. So I just feel like I've got everything in a good state. But, to me, where I am right now in the next 20 years, gosh, Christian, I hope in the next 5 years I can be in, the beach and people are just calling me and saying, hey, we won. And I'm going thumbs up. Great job. So that's where I want to be.
So many of your answers in this interview are so real and so authentic, which I think is really, really neat. But the comment that you just made, I think, is also telling that you want to see other people win. You want to empower other leaders. You want to see other people grow. It's easy to say that. And a lot of people can say that and not really mean it. But you really do mean it. And the actions and decisions you've taken in your club show that. And that also, I think, talks a little bit about sort of the evolution of a coaching career, and your role as a director and a leader now is you're envisioning that differently than your role as a director and a leader 5 years ago. So congrats to you on sort of creating this path for your own career. Maybe talk a little bit about that as you look at your career in coaching and as you look at the careers of the people now that are following you and that are learning from you and overall, because I know we've had some good discussions on that at times too.
Well, my coaching career, my goodness gracious, I mean, it's 30 plus years. And, I'm blessed because I had some very, very good players and very good parents and people just around me. I mean, I couldn't have done this without a lot of those people, to be very honest with you. And I mean, right now at the, as I'm thinking of players that have played for me and, have just made me so successful because I couldn't have done it without them or their parents and the administrators behind me. And I've learned a lot from a lot of people, Christian. So, I mean, I've got to give those people a lot of credit as well. Where I see myself, moving forward, and to your point with wanting other people to win. I mean, that honestly, if they do that and they do their job, then my job's done. And again, I don't say that because I don't mean it. I mean, I really want to see the people that are around us have a lot of success, because if they have success, then that means that I've been successful as well. So that's kind of where I am. This has been a wonderful 40 minutes, I think, a really unique, I think, conversation, because we don't get into these topics, at least to this depth, very often. And I know Dean would echo that, because these are difficult topics. They're emotional topics. I would just like to say, on behalf of our league, on behalf of the board, on behalf of the clubs everywhere, your leadership in the ECNL has been exceptional. You're a big part of where we are as a league today. Like I said, you're not going anywhere. This isn't goodbye. It's a see you later. But, for the record, I just want to thank you for everything you've done to help put us in the right direction and keep us there. We know Sting is in good hands, and the best years of Sting and the clubs you have all over the country, and certainly the Dallas and the Austin division, the best years of Sting for sure are to come. But thank you very much for everything you've done. And I'll leave you with the last word. Well, my last word is thank you to you. And again, just everything that the league has done for me and my experience with it. And so I can't thank you enough, Christian, and your leadership as well, and what you've done for the league. So, and everybody else that I've been associated with, and the coaches and people that are on the board. So I'm very, very thankful and very, very grateful for all of you.
Fitting last words from Kenneth Medina. What a great interview with ECNL President and CEO Christian Lavers. I want to thank all the great folks at the ECNL, including Andrea Wheeler and Jacob Bourne. I want to thank our producer, Colin Thrash. For each and every one of them and all of you, I'm Dean Linke. We'll see you in 2 weeks for another edition of Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast.
Thanks for listening to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast. For more information on the ECNL, Visit us at www.theecnl.com. And if you have a suggestion for the show or a great idea for a guest, please email us at info@theecnl.com. Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast is an ECNL production. ECNL, more than a league.